Hello and welcome to Johnny on the Spot, where we talk about all things related to precious metals, gold, silver, and what's happening in today's markets. Hi, I'm Shannon Estes with CMI Gold and Silver, headquartered in Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm her husband, Johnny, and we're a family-owned precious metals firm that's been helping Americans buy and sell bullion since 1973. And on this show, we like to cut through the noise, share what we're seeing day to day with our clients, and help them make the best decisions they can about precious metals.
Absolutely. My father started CMI Gold and Silver more than 50 years ago, and we've served clients nationwide from the beginning through education. So we're here to share what we've learned over decades in this business to help you decide if physical precious metals make sense for your situation.
Yeah, and our website is cmigs.com.
Today we're going to tackle a topic that has appeared in headlines over the past couple of years, YouTube videos, and a lot of email subject lines. This idea that there's a silver shortage and that silver prices are being massively manipulated. Although the headline that silver prices are being manipulated has been around at least half the time that we've been in business.
Maybe longer.
But before we jump into the modern drama, I want to give silver a little bit of the spotlight silver deserves.
Okay.
There's a phrase, all that glitters is not gold, meaning not everything that looks valuable, attractive, or true on the surface actually is. But silver is one of those things that really does live up to its shine. Today, we're going to sing the praises of the precious metal silver and talk about it because it's often overshadowed by its gold counterpart.
Yeah, I mean, I even heard it called the poor man's gold, which I don't like that phrase.
I never liked that.
No, I think that's dumb. I think silver's a really cool metal. So we're going to talk about that. But they've both been used as currency for thousands of years. I mean, but actually, silver has a longer history and as a standardized form of money. So why don't you start off with a quick history lesson?
Silver was first mined around 3000 BCE in Anatolia, which is modern-day Turkey. At first, it was used for jewelry and religious objects, and later it became a form of currency by weight. Eventually, the first standardized silver coins, such as the Athenian tetradrachm, were minted and widely circulated. That marked a major shift in how silver was used as money.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that Athenian tetradrachm 10 times, you could get a prize, I think. But so early on, silver was valued for its luster and its resistance to corrosion, all right? It showed up in jewelry, tableware, and religious objects. Ancient civilizations also recognized that silver had antimicrobial properties. So they used it in food preservation, and they even used it for healing. And you can even use it for healing today. You can get colloidal silver today from your local apothecary.
Silver's role as a dominant global currency expanded dramatically with the discovery of massive silver deposits in the Americas, especially in Mexico, Bolivia, and Peru. In the 1500s, those discoveries sent global silver production through the roof and reshaped world trade and entire economies.
Yeah, so the influx of silver from the Americas fundamentally altered global trade because a huge portion of it would flow into Asia, particularly China, where silver became the dominant currency and the basis of all the economy. Now, closer to home, okay, the discovery of the Comstock lode in 1859, a very famous discovery. It was a discovery made in Nevada, and it played a huge role in economic development of the American West.
In the late 19th century, many nations began abandoning the silver standard in favor of the gold standard. In the United States, that shift is often referred to as the crime of 1873, when silver was effectively demonetized. We have an article on our website, cmigs.com, titled The Demise of Silver in U.S. Coinage for more information on the subject if you're interested.
Yeah, so over time, as countries adopted the gold standard, silver lost its official role as money. But it didn't disappear. It continued to be used in industry, in technology, as an investment metal, which is basically where we find ourselves today.
So silver has this long, rich history as money and as a practical metal. And yet in today's headlines, what we mostly hear are dramatic claims about shortages and manipulation. So in the rest of the show, we're going to look at what's really going on with silver today, how it's mined, why it behaves differently from gold, and what you should make of all those shortage stories.
Yeah.
So let's start with that word shortage. When people call us and say, I've heard there's no silver left, they're usually reacting to one of two things. Either they can't find a specific product, maybe the 1 ounce silver eagle, for example, or a certain brand of silver bar, or they've watched a video claiming that the world is literally running out of silver.
And I believe that those two things are very different in and of themselves.
Different situations. Yes, exactly. We have absolutely seen where certain products are hard to get. That's a product shortage. It's usually a bottleneck at the mint or an issue with fabrication or with shipping. That is not the same as the planet running out of silver.
Very different. And there are analysts who have been very patient about explaining this ad nauseum most of the time. One of them is Jeffrey Christian. He's the managing director of the CPM Group, a commodities research firm known for its analysis of precious metal of precious and industrial metals. Mr. Christensen is considered one of the most knowledgeable experts on precious metals markets. He spent years walking through the numbers, inventories, and how the futures markets actually work. And a lot of the end-of-the-world silver shortage claims, they just do not add up with the data that's provided.
And we appreciate that transparency. Even though it's not attention-grabbing, it's not silver prices to the moon by next Tuesday. It's, here are the numbers, here's what they mean. We've put a lot of his material into our own research library because we want our clients to have that kind of grounded perspective.
Yeah.
So when you hear the word shortage, it's worth asking, are we talking about a temporary squeeze in a specific coin, or are we talking about actual mine supply and above ground supplies? Those are very different conversations. I think it helps to bring this down to earth a little bit, Johnny. So let's talk about how we actually get silver at CMI Gold and Silver, because we're not just reading about this, we're living it every day.
Yeah, sure. So the silver that we get comes from a few main places. We buy from large wholesalers and refiners. We buy from mints that produce coins and bars. And of course, we buy from retail public or anyone who is selling the product back into the market. And they do that for a number of reasons, Shannon. Maybe they need some cash. Maybe they inherited it. Some people just want to rebalance their portfolios. And of course, there's profit taking, which, you hold on to it for a while. It's kind of nice to take some profits.
Yes. In other words, silver is constantly moving. It's coming out of the ground. It's being refined. It's being recycled, and it's changing hands every day.
Right. So when someone says there's no silver anywhere and lead you to believe that the sky is falling, kind of like Chicken Little, the sky is falling, and they give you some anxiety, it just doesn't match what we see. And it never has. And we've said that over and over and over again. Are there times when premiums go up and certain products are hard to find? Well, yes, that happens. But silver itself is still available. It always has been. It may not always be in the exact form, coin, or bar that you want, or the exact premium that you want on the exact day you want. But the bottom line is it's always available.
And that's usually what our conversations with clients are about. For example, there are certain times during the year that the U.S. Mint Silver Eagle inventory is tight. In the fall, the U.S. Mint begins slowing current Eagle production in preparation for minting next year's coin. When this happens, there are other options for silver purchases, and we present what's available at the time and how the pricing works. Now, to really understand why the word shortage gets used so loosely, we need to talk about how silver is mined.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
You shared an analogy, Johnny, with me recently from the Mises Institute that applies very well to silver production. It wasn't about silver at all. It was about beef and leather, but it explains a lot about silver mining.
You know, when I read that, I thought it was a great way to picture it. And the idea is very simple, okay? If you can imagine that all of a sudden the price of beef goes way up, doubles, triples, whatever, ranchers will look at that and say, I think we need to put more cattle on our ranch. And so they do.
It's worthwhile to do so. But every time you raise more cattle, you don't just get more steaks, you also get more hides.
Right, which is leather. And that leather is the byproduct of the beef. Now, they're not raising the cows for leather. They're raising them for the beef production, for the meat. But every cow that gets processed means another hide or more leather. So if beef prices soar and ranchers raise more cattle, all of a sudden you got a lot more leather, right?
So even though beef is expensive, the price of leather can actually go down because there's so much more leather coming onto the market.
You know, and that's the key. When something is a byproduct, its supply is tied to the main product, not to its own price alone.
And silver, in many cases, is like the leather in this story. It's not always the main event for the miner. It's something that comes along with the mining of other metals.
Right.
Let's dig into that just a little bit, because I think a lot of people picture silver like they picture gold. Big, shiny veins in the rock that you can see and follow along the rock.
Yeah. Just like the classic movies, you know, they see this big, bright streak of gold, and they've hit the mother lode in the rock wall, and they dance around, and it's a lot of fun. But that's not really how silver shows up in nature, okay? It's much more lackluster. In most cases, it's found mixed in with other minerals like lead, zinc, copper, and even gold. It's in the ore, not a vein, and once it's in the ore and they mine it, then they separate it out in the refining process.
So you're not down in a mine seeing this obvious silver vein running through the rock wall.
No, not typically. And that kind of leads to an important part from some of the research that I've looked at. I've found out that roughly 70% of all newly mined silver comes as a byproduct from other mining metals or ore. Okay, there's only about 30% comes from primary silver mines, or 30% of the mines that mine silver make up that content. So only about 30% is mined specifically for silver, where it is the product they're targeting.
Okay. So think about that. Most of the new silver the world uses is not coming from a silver mine in the way that we might imagine. It's coming along for the ride when miners are really going after copper or zinc or gold.
Right. And that has like huge implications on the price of silver. Okay? If you're a copper miner, you're making decisions based on copper prices, not the silver prices, okay? If copper is profitable, you keep mining and the silver keeps coming, okay? And that's whether the silver price is high or low. It's coming with the ore.
But on the flip side, if silver prices spike, you can't just flip a switch and double global silver production because you'd have to double all that other mining activity also.
Exactly. So the silver supply does not respond to price the way people sometimes assume.
Now let's connect this to the manipulation conversation. When people say silver is being held down, it should be $200 an ounce, they're usually imagining a world where silver supply responds directly and quickly to price, as if there's a big dial somewhere someone is turning.
Yeah. But in the real world, the non-make-believe world, because so much silver is the byproduct, that supply is anchored to those other metals. You can't just say, well, silver's too cheap, so we're going to just shut it off. We're going to just shut off 70% of the global production. Those mines are running for copper, zinc, and gold. And as long as those metals are profitable, guess what? The silver keeps flowing.
And now we're not saying that markets are perfect. We're not saying that.
No.
There have been real cases where traders were fined for bad behavior, spoofing, and other tactics. It's been documented. Spoofing is a form of market manipulation where a trader places a large, non-bona fide order with the intent to cancel the order before execution, which creates a false impression of demand and supply in order to move the price.
Right. Right. But if you zoom out and look at the big picture, okay, the major drivers of silver over time are things like industrial demand, which includes solar panels, electronics, metal uses, and investment demand. This unique supply situation where most of the time silver is only along for the ride.
Yes. There's also lots of other uses for silver in medicine, things like that.
So we talk about big price movements, especially the big sudden swings that make headlines, right? There are really two main reasons why that happens. And that's the two main reasons why silver moves the way that it moves. The first is simply investment demand. There's a lot of buyers, okay? When investors get nervous about economy or inflation or geopolitical events, they rush into the safe haven of silver and gold. And that's going to drive the price up really fast.
And when they feel more confident, they sell, and the price can drop just as fast.
Exactly. Now, the second reason, Shannon, is a little more technical, but it's important to understand it, or at least to get an idea. Large moves can happen when the futures markets are rolling to the new contract, okay? Without getting too far into the weeds, because that could be probably a whole show in and of itself, futures contracts, they have expiration dates, okay? And so when one contract is about to expire, traders then need to either buy or move some way, sell, trade, or some way to the next month's contract. And when that happens, there's a massive amount of silver on paper that moves, and you can see some huge price swings. And that the reason that is because that's just the way the futures market work. And there's a lot of other reasons, but without getting into the weeds, suffice it to say that's how.
There's a hint that there's more. It's not manipulation. It's not necessary manipulation. It's just the mechanics of how silver is traded on the futures exchanges.
Right. It can look really dramatic, all right? And people can assume something shady is happening. But a lot of times, that's just the normal process of silver. If the contracts roll over, they combine, and it changes with it changes with investor sentiment. It's just the way it works.
Now, that's a very different story than a handful of people in a dark room deciding the price every day. But, for example, 2011 was a period of record high silver prices. And those prices peaked in April at nearly $50 an ounce. This and a combination of factors, including investor demand during the global economic crisis, as well as increased industrial usage, particularly in the booming solar panel industry, created what many called at that time a silver shortage. While specific shortages of certain high purity bars existed, the overall supply of raw silver was not depleted, but rather, as we've mentioned, a tight market emerged for specific product types. At that time, it was mostly 100-ounce silver bars.
Right.
All this combined with investor speculation, price volatility, and panic buying created what many called at that time a shortage of silver. Let me just mention here that at that time when we were in business, we didn't have any product to sell because it was all being purchased.
Right.
I remember this very vividly. We had a recording on our show.
On the phones, it
On
said,
the phone when people called
you
in to
want
buy.
1,000-ounce bar?
That's all we have.
Then stay on the line. If you don't, hang up.
We don't have any other product. That was pretty incredible at that time.
Yeah. But if you're going to buy silver with your hard-earned money, we really think that you deserve an explanation that goes deeper than the sky is falling. You know, it hit me on the head, silver shortage, manipulation, all these anxiety words. You deserve to understand how the mining works, how supply chain works, how demand actually shows up in the real market, and yes, even how the futures markets can create short-term volatility.
So if I'm listening to this and I've heard all about the silver shortage talk, what am I supposed to do with this information?
Well, if you're Chicken Little, you got to wear a hard hat. I'd say first and foremost, don't let fear be your main decision-making strategy. You never win when you're afraid and you buy something, okay? If someone's telling you have to buy right now because there's no silver left, it's going to go to the moon, calm down. Take a deep breath, all right? There can be tightness in certain products, but that's not the same, Shannon, as the world is running out of silver.
Yes. Second, think of silver as a long-term piece of your overall plan, not a lottery ticket. It can be a great diversifier, a tangible asset alongside your paper investments, but it's volatile and moves as we've talked about.
Yeah, and we really want everybody to invest with their eyes wide open. Don't invest because somebody promises you that silver is going to be, $200 in 2 days by I don't know, pick a date, April 1st. That April Fool's Day, by the way, or a specific date. So just keep your eyes open and understand that silver moves the way it moves because of investment demand and what we talked about.
And market fundamentals. Market aspects, not because it's being manipulated. And that's where talking to a live or a real person helps. We have a firm where you can call and speak with people on the phone. You can ask questions. You can talk about your situation and get information from someone who's been around for many years in this industry and to help you decide what's best for you, and not some YouTube algorithm or a newsletter headline that's saying the sky is falling and silver is being manipulated.
Yeah, I mean, that's the important thing about a non-commissioned broker. You can call and they're going to give you advice because they've got no motivation to sell you anything. They're non-commissioned. Of course we want to sell you something, but they're non-commissioned and they're not going to ask for the sale, and that's important. So
that is important. So if today's conversation on silver raised questions for you, then we'd love to talk to you. Call us. You can visit us online, of course, at cmigs.com. We have lots of articles because, as we mentioned, we have a lot of education material on the website. That's cmigs.com. Or if you want to talk to somebody, you can call us at 1-800-528-1380. That's 528-1380.
Yep, and when you call, once again, you're going to be talking to a real non-commissioned broker. Of course, they're real. They're not fake guys, but they're real guys.
Not AI.
They're not AI. That's going to answer your questions, and they're going to walk you through how the precious metals market work, and then they let you decide, okay? There's no pressure. There's no games.
And again, that's cmigs.com or 800-528-1380. Although we're located in Phoenix, we have served clients nationwide since 1973.
Yep. Additional episodes of Johnny on the Spot can be found on YouTube by searching CMIGS. From our family to yours, thanks for spending your time with us. And I always like to say, do something good for somebody soon. Take care until next time. This is Johnny and Shannon for Johnny on the Spot.